Hey folks, so for today's Your Questions Answered, I wanted to tackle a subject which a lot of you have been asking about for the last few months, actually, since the end of the season, over the winter on my social channels, and ever since we started really on the YouTube channel. I've had a ton of questions in about it, asking for my opinion on it, asking what's going on. So I didn't want you to think that I was ignoring you. I didn't want you to think that I was ignoring the subject either. I just wanted to take a bit of time to process my thoughts on it and really figure out what I wanted to say. So here we go. Where to start? I guess back in December when the incident itself took place and the video was uploaded. The team stated at the time that the uploading of the video was abhorrent, and that's a really strong word. Nikita himself issued an apology for his actions, and he stated that his behaviour had been inappropriate. So right from the off, we have both team and crucially driver admitting that what happened was unacceptable. And I think that's really, really important. But the comparative silence which has followed does leave a lot of questions. One of the biggest, I think, followed a column that Haas boss Gunther Steiner wrote for the Race website, in which he reiterated that the team was in no way saying that what Nikita had done was okay, nor were they letting him get away with it. They were going to educate him that he needed to grow up, and that harsher sanctions would occur should anything like this happen again. So the question, and it's one actually posed by Scott Mitchell in a couple of articles that he's written for the Race, is that if the team and the driver all acknowledge that there was wrongdoing, and if a second occurrence would lead to more serious action, then why does the original incident not merit those actions? And crucially, if Nikita's genuinely sorry for the behaviour which he described as inappropriate, then why has he deleted all evidence of his apology? Gunther's spoken of Nikita's need to grow up. After all, he has a well-documented history of questionable antics both on and off the track. When I interviewed him on his promotion to Formula One, I asked what kind of a driver Formula One was going to get. And he said that he was the type of driver who would push the limit of acceptability under the regulation as far as he could. But that he amassed so many penalty points in Formula 2 shows that he didn't just flirt with the letter of the law, he overstepped the mark repeatedly. And often, and here's the problem, without tangible consequence. Now look, I've seen the hashtags, I've seen the petitions, but I think anyone who genuinely believed that Nikita Mazepin would find himself without a seat in 2021 were being somewhat naive. His place in the sport, in Formula One, was never down to just his speed, and he is fast, nor was it down to his personality or his marketability. There's little doubt that the team that he'll race for in 2021 would have found its existence in question if it wasn't for the influx of revenue that his appointment brings with it. It's also difficult, I think, for the team or the higher authorities in the sport to take what some might consider to be meaningful action in the absence of any formal complaint. But that doesn't mean that actions which have already been apologised for shouldn't have consequences, nor that they shouldn't require reflection and positive change. As Nikita stated in the apology which he deleted, he has to hold himself to a higher standard. That the incident has done damage to Nikita, Haas, their sponsors and their partners, though, is incontrovertible. I think, though, that in one respect, the silence around this issue could be taken as being representative of the space and the time that is probably needed for the education the team to say that they are giving Nikita to make a difference. But at the same time, that silence also risks promoting a belief in some quarters that maybe it's not being dealt with. and also creates the prospect of undermining the seriousness of these incidents, which sadly occur all too often in the real world, and also in normalising them. 2 articles recently, one in The Sun and one in a motor racing business magazine, gave us examples of this normalisation. For while in one, the headline referred to him playfully as a bad boy, so, bit cheeky, bit naughty. The other referred to the behaviour Nikita's already accepted was inappropriate as being normal. And that, I think, is why there's danger in the silence. That both of these pieces ultimately received such negative responses, though, I think speaks volumes as to the anger which still exists within the Formula One fanbase. And if any further evidence was needed of just how strong those feelings are, you need only look at Haas F1 team posting a video of Nikita in F2, and within an hour, the hashtag, which we all know, was trending. Now, look, over recent years, the sport has done a lot to make the paddock a more inclusive and welcoming space. It spent 2020 pledging diversity and equality. It held itself to a higher, morally virtuous standard to race as one. Those who believed in those pledges might feel let down. After all, what kind of a message does it send to female fans or to women in the paddock if incidents like this aren't dealt with swiftly and critically openly? And look, this isn't about being woke, and regardless of the frankly shameful reaction of some in the paddock who should know a lot better, this isn't about boys being boys. It's also not just about acknowledging the standards one should espouse as a racing driver. It's about what one should seek to be as a man. There is, of course, another side to this, because in a world increasingly ruled by snap judgments on social media and cancel culture, we also have to allow those who make genuine mistakes to atone for their missteps. But for that to happen, the contrition, first of all, has to be sincere. Lessons have to have been learned, and change has to be visible. It can't happen either in silence or behind closed doors. I think that's about all I can say, really, other than to reflect in closing on an interview released these past few weeks with Nikita, who, when asked about the furore, said that he was used to criticism and controversy, but that it didn't bother him. Essentially, that he didn't care. If the education that Haas are providing doesn't result in him doing so, then that would seem, I think, an adequate reason for us to continue to. That's about it. Thanks for watching, folks. Thanks as always for your support, for your comments and your questions. And we'll see you next time.